Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode and another week at the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and this week I have Jenn Burton. She is a dating expert to smart, successful, and single women all around the world. She is known for magically ushering in stable, fun, witty, and insanely attractive men who will love, adore, and romance you without expecting you to compromise your career, success, or genuine self for any of it. So we are talking about so many juicy topics tonight. I cannot wait for you to take a listen. So the first major one is all about Mantourage. If you don't know what this means, you need to listen in, because if you are single, this is a must. It is dating more than one man at a time. How to do it, how to juggle the men if there are more than just one, which we both agreed was a really good thing in the very beginning, not to put all your eggs in one basket. Then also we talked about sexual boundaries and also this is another question that I get a lot from even between me and my girlfriends is when financially successful women date men who are not as, financially stable or as successful as the woman. And so we talk a lot about that and what to do, how to sort of handle that. And what else? And also some of the mistakes that women generally make while they're dating. So this is a super rich and juicy interview today. Listen up, single ladies, because this is definitely going to be worth every single second. So without further ado, on to the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and today I have a very special guest, Jenn Burton. She is a dating expert, and I am so happy that you are here today with us, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret, for inviting me. I'm excited to be here as well.
So some of the questions I want to touch upon today are actually one major one is something that it's actually been in something that I discuss a lot with a couple of my single girlfriends and would love to unpack it a little more. And that is Mantourage dating. And I just wanted to know sort of the ins and outs around it and how we can successfully Mantourage. So if you can maybe explain to the listeners what Mantourage dating is briefly, then we can sort of flow right into a little bit more of a deeper discussion.
Absolutely. So if you boil Mantourage dating down, all it really is dating more than one man at a time until you find your forever man, or indefinitely if you so choose. Okay.
And does this very similar to the concept of, from what I've heard in the past, like when women kind of number their guys, like, oh, he's my number one or he's my number 2, 3, and 4. Is it that sort of thing?
It can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but it's essentially having, instead of what women usually do is we throw ourselves into exclusivity or to the idea of exclusivity. So say you are dating this one guy and you two haven't decided yet to be in an exclusive relationship. Lots of women automatically just shut their options down at that point. Mantourage dating is about keeping your options open in anywhere from 2 to say 5 men, or, rotating higher if you like to, by maybe talking to more than that, not necessarily actively dating. It's really kind of up to you, but giving yourself those options instead of automatically exclusively focusing on this one gentleman who hasn't said, hey, I really do want to be in a relationship with you. Because what happens, Margaret, a lot of times when we do hyper focus on that one guy that you haven't discussed having an exclusive romantic relationship with, that all kinds of crappy behavior comes out of that, because you start to worry about how he is feeling on the other end, and then how everything. And when you hyper focus on that particular man, you also short circuit his ability to start investing in you, because men aren't really designed to be the recipient of your exclusive attention if they haven't decided yet for themselves that they want to be in an exclusive relationship with you. And if you don't mind, I'd also like to note that an exclusive relationship isn't the two of you deciding that you're exclusively sleeping together. Exclusive romantic relationship is more of a boyfriend-girlfriend scenario where you're actively dating, plus if you're having sexual encounters as well, not just the sexual encounter part.
Okay. Okay, that's good to make that distinction. Okay, so tell us how to do this, because I know that sometimes we get into a relationship, or I won't even use the word relationship. We're dating somebody, and we're dating one man, and suddenly we're like into them. And I personally don't feel that women from the get-go should be fully focusing on the one person. I think you should just be still continuing to date until there is a talk about being exclusive, or I think that sometimes women tend to jump into it and, like you said, hyper focus on the one person, which I don't feel is a good thing to do in the very beginning at all.
No, it's not. And in fact, there's a great quote from Maya Angelou, and she says, never make somebody a priority when all you are is considered an option. I'm paraphrasing that just a little bit. And this is a perfect example of what so many women do, is we go ahead and give him all of our attention, give him all of our devotion. And honestly, he hasn't earned that position in our lives yet.
Totally.
But we think that somehow we're obligated to this one guy because he's paid us some romantic attention.
Right. So how do we go about keeping our options open and doing that in a way that makes us feel good?
Well, it can be a very nuanced process, and it can be different for each woman. It's something that I work with women specifically doing. The first step of that, of course, is opening yourself up to the idea of options and just giving yourself permission to say, you know what, my exclusivity is very valuable. It's not something that I should just throw at the first guy who pays attention to me, or that I like or feel something below the belt about. It's a very special thing. So I'm going to rein that in and give myself permission to really see what is out there. So it's a decision first, a decision and permission to yourself to really to embrace the experience. The second part of that is to actually find the different venues that you're going to meet and start talking to different men. So that could be through online dating, which is one of my favorite because it's such a large pool of available single men. Then, of course, it's meeting people. It's through networking events. It's through seminars you go to. It's through all these different venues. It's even though some people kind of have a tainted idea about it, but it's even through setups and things. But it's the next part is actually moving into the meeting of different men. The third part would be learning how to experience these different men through going on dates, through learning, and you're going to learn as you go on these different dates, you're going to learn different pieces of yourself, of your romantic self. We think we already know everything we want in this scenario, but the truth is that we are constantly as women evolving romantically. So when you start this Mantourage dating experience and start meeting different men and experiencing different men and having, different adventures with different types of guys, then you're going to learn about pieces of yourself romantically that you didn't even know existed. And I know something that you might appreciate, Margaret, is you're going to start to step into your feminine more. So instead of making this experience about controlling everything, you're going to step into your vulnerability, which comes into the fourth piece of this, is having good boundaries. So you can step into your vulnerability, because we all have it, and it's really beautiful and it's really sexy. And you start to formulate all of your different boundaries through the dating process, and you strengthen those boundaries, because the combination of vulnerability and boundaries makes you absolutely unforgettable and irresistible to the right men.
Mm-hmm. So let's say we've got a guy that we're currently just dating, and we're still doing the online thing on the side, and we're continuing to date maybe one or two different men. Now, what if you are already you are intimate with the first one, but there is no exclusive thing happening there? Do you need to tell him about the fact that you are, how much does he need to know about what else you're doing and who else you're seeing?
That's one of my favorite questions to answer. So I like to do playful vagueness, because I don't think just like you don't really want to know. Most women don't really, we say we want to know, but then when we get the information that we want, it's very overwhelming. But let's say we're going to ask him, hey, are you dating other women? And then we go into from the yes to, oh, well, what's she like? And you start we're competitive by nature. Mm-hmm. So we start to overthink and overanalyze instead of just allowing it to stay at, okay, I'm just going to assume he's dating other women. It's the same thing. He can ask you, and of course you can say, well, you can be direct. There's lots of options here. You can say yes. You can say yes, since we're not in an exclusive relationship. I haven't shut down other options. But beyond that, I would not go deeper into answering all those questions with who are they, what are they like, how often, all those things. He thinks, just like you might think, that that information will be helpful. But the truth is most of the time it's not. It's just, it's excess information that we use to sabotage our relationships versus just focusing on hey, let's enjoy this right now and see where this goes, instead of having to know the ins and outs. Plus, it's never, especially for men, I don't think it's great information for us per se. Just, I always encourage women to just assume he's dating other people, just like you probably will be as well. Mm-hmm. So just assume. But it's also really not great information for him, because then he never has to think about you more. So he can go one way. He can start getting excessively jealous with all that information and then push you away, or start to become a little bit more controlling than he should be. Or he can use that information to not need to learn more about you. So he can disqualify you very, very easily. And in all those scenarios, the truth is that we don't owe each other, until we're in an exclusive relationship, we don't owe each other a detailed description of our lives. He doesn't need to have the blow by blow. Plus, him having the blow by blow in your life it's not gonna make him more intrigued about you, more interested in you. Let him wonder a little bit.
Okay, so if I guess if he asks, we're going to be pretty vague around it, and just.
Well, you can absolutely say, yes, I assumed, since we're not in an exclusive relationship, that we would both be dating other people. And if he goes deeper into it, I would say, honestly, I'm really focused right now on getting to know you, and I am not comfortable sharing different pieces. Or you can be playful and say, you know what, big guy, that's top secret security information. You don't quite have that clearance yet.
I like that.
Yes. So you can be playful, you can be direct, but don't worry about it so much. We put way too much emphasis on this piece. Like, how much information should I tell him? I need to let him know, if he asks me out on Friday night and I can't go, I have to tell him exactly what I'm doing, because he's not going to like me if I haven't told him that it's not about another guy. Well, I'm not telling you to tell him that it is another guy, but the truth is that you're going to intrigue him more if you're like, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't make it Friday night. I have plans, but next week, either on Tuesday, I could do Tuesday or Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And then follow it up with, if he does keep pressing you, follow it up with, hey, big guy, that's top secret information that you're inquiring about. It's
Right.
going to take you a few more dates before you'll start to get that security clearance.
Okay. And what about, I guess, does it matter? Should we, if we are, let's say, dating like 2 or 3 men at the same time, what are your thoughts about intimacy with them? And
It's a very personal, for me, when I was Mantourage dating, it's very personal. It goes from woman to woman. I did not have the emotional capacity to sleep with more than one guy at a time. I had tried that once in my younger life, and it lasted all of a week because I felt like a huge hot mess.
okay.
Some women, that is okay with them. It works for them. I do think more women than not, though, more women don't do it as well as they'd like to think that they do it. So it's your sexual boundaries and how many partners that you have at one time, it's a very personal decision.
And then obviously that information definitely does not get disclosed. I'm assuming that.
And in fact, if the conversation comes up, because that's such a difficult conversation to have, because I don't want women to outright lie, but the conversation comes up and what you can say is, look, this is a loaded question on both of our ends, regardless of what we say, because we're not in an exclusive romantic relationship yet. So I am going to assume at this point that we both are, and we can treat sexual encounters between the two of us with, kindness and protection, and doing it in a way we both feel good about.
Okay, that's great. So why don't we talk a little bit about, since you mentioned this already, about sexual boundaries when it comes to either early on when we're dating someone, and what is that, maybe some of the language around that when a woman maybe is not ready for it, or she's just not really feeling it, and the guy's like really coming on heavy. Maybe we can go through a couple of different scenarios where we can learn some language around setting some boundaries around that.
Okay. Well, let's rewind a little bit before that, Margaret, if you don't mind. And it actually, now, of course, we can talk about if you get there and it doesn't work. But one of the things I really encourage women to do is, think about your romantic timing, your sexual timing. Are you, and I used to do this, are you getting to sex so fast that you're feeling kind of crazy afterwards and it's not working out for you? Because that's really, before you get to the language of it, you need to start reassessing, what's your sexual timing. And if you're following a guy's sexual pace versus yours, which I used to follow more men's sexual pace. So
right.
Start really thinking about that. And if you find yourself obsessing about men as soon as you have sex, that's a really good indication that you're probably going too quickly into sexual encounters with him. Now, some women, they're fine with it. But again, I think I don't want to say a majority, but more women seem to have kind of mixed up their sexual timing with his, and that they would be more comfortable letting him invest in them and date them more before they decide to be sexual with them. And the right men, real men, aren't going to have a problem with your sexual time frame. So
right.
That's the first thing to really think about before we even talk about how to say, what to do and how to say. With that, then the second piece of that is, once you've decided what your sexual time frame is acting accordingly. A lot of us women think that, and we're kind of screwing ourselves, and we're kind of basically invalidating who we are, is we'll tell a guy when we first meet him, we're making out, everything's hot and heavy, and we tell him, I'm not having sex with you tonight. But at the end of the night, we end up having sex with him. You've just kind of discredited yourself, and you're teaching men that a lot of women will do this. So I'm not beating women up for this, because I certainly have done it, but I want women to stop saying all the time, I'm not having sex with you tonight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have invalidated that statement in the past, go
Right.
ahead and eliminate that for your vocabulary right now. Or from your statement bank that you make to men. Go ahead and take that out. And another piece of that is too, if you've decided, there's so many different pieces of it. But if you have decided that you really you want to wait for a while and have a man date you, court you, woo you before you decide to have sexual contact with him, then let him do that and keep your dates unless you have super strong sexual boundaries and you don't have a problem with it. But keep your dates in and at other venues besides your house or his,
Mm-hmm.
or places that you are, places like friends, places, things that where that it could be conducive to a sexual encounter.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
But if you do get to the point and you want to say, and you do want to tell him, and you tell him, say, hey, I really do like kissing you and I'm enjoying this, but frankly, I've even said before, I get really emotional with sleeping with somebody. So I can be very emotional and I feel emotionally connected to somebody I sleep with. So I'm going to take my time on this and I hope you understand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I've also used the phrase, you can, depending on how long you've been seeing the guy, you can say, look, I really like you, but I'm really just not ready for this next step just yet. And usually they're pretty cool with it. I've never had anybody say, been an asshole to me after me saying that. And they've been pretty good about stopping and not progressing at all.
Yeah, most men, well, a lot of men, I'm not going to say all men, but a lot of men are actually very respectful, especially when you carry yourself with respect and you're not invalidating your statements like that, as you did, Margaret. That's a perfect thing to say. Men also don't want you to feel uncomfortable around them. So always throwing that phrase in, I'm not comfortable taking that next step with you yet is, and just modifying that statement you have works really well too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Let's see what else. So I love talking about the Mantourage because I've always had questions about that, and sometimes, the how much the partner actually needs to know, the person that you're dating, or all the men that you end up dating, how much they actually need to know about what is going on in your dating world. And so you went through that, which was great. Let's see, what else? Okay. This is another big one that I hear a lot of women talk about. And it is why women who are financially successful tend to have a really hard time meeting and dating men.
Okay. So this has a lot to do with masculine and feminine energy. And a lot of very successful women, they play in a very masculine world, and they have been taught to prove to everyone their value. So that's what they're constantly trying to do. And romance, especially on the end of a woman, is not on the woman's end, is not about proving anything. It's about learning to receive. It doesn't mean that you can't step into masculine energy and be a doer in your career and things like that. But a lot of women who really step into their feminine energy of receiving and not having to micromanage everything, end up having not only amazing results romantically, they end up having even bigger results in their careers because they've already established, they've done all the groundwork, they've done some amazing things in their career. But shifting and learning to be a receiver and giving men space in their life versus not having to prove whether that they don't need a man or prove who they are, because I've seen both. I've seen professional women do both. Some of them, they've come to a point they feel so desperate for affection. They're so afraid that they're going to spend the rest of their lives alone that they do a lot for the first guy that comes in there who makes them feel like a woman. They overcompensate and try to prove to him how much she's worth and that he should stick around, which is counterintuitive to letting him really be more of a doer in the relationship, creating space for him to invest in you and let him treat you well, to start to love, cherish, and adore you. Men fall in love through the act of doing and producing. And if he never has to do anything for you, if he never has to consider you, if he never has to, invest either thought-wise or in actual everyday actions, if everything's already set up to go because you're trying to prove how valuable you are, then he has no way to fall in love with you.
Oh, so interesting. I really like that. I didn't realize that that's how men fall for someone, is by the act of doing. And it's right. Yeah. You're true. I mean, it's true about women who are successful. They're very much in their masculine mode all the time. And I see that even clinically when they come in to see me with burned out adrenals and hormone imbalances and all of that. So I see this so much. And so what you're saying is women need to be more in their feminine role and allow the man to do for them rather than the opposite. Because all day you can do as much as you want in your masculine mode in your business, but then learning how to turn that off and switching over sometimes can be challenging for women who are in their masculine all day and all night.
Exactly. It's extremely challenging. And it's also really heartbreaking because I see these women and I know, I hear all the time women say they have a lot of preconceived notions about men. And one of the biggest ones is women don't want a strong, independent, opinionated woman. And men are wildly attracted to these type of women. These women become problematic because of that space she's not creating. She is still on some level trying to prove something all the time and keeps pushing him, keeping him at arm's distance, or she's trying to overcompensate to prove to him how valuable she is.
By doing things for him and
doing for him, not letting him step up and over communicating with him, maybe setting up all the dates, maybe always. This also, by the way, Margaret, leads into something else. Some of the men that will stay around when a woman is doing that constantly end up being men who've kind of figured it out. That'll let, they're like, I'm totally cool with a woman just, doing it all for me. And then those women at some point shift. If they stay in a relationship with them, it shifts towards bitterness. I mean, at first she was trying to prove her value, but then all of a sudden she's angry at him because she's doing everything, and he's letting her because he's not stupid. He's like, hey, if she's going to do it, I'm going to let her.
Right. But that's not very. I mean, I would think that successful women want an alpha male. And if a man is allowing her to do everything, I would consider them more to be betas than alphas. And for me personally, I am not attracted to betas on any level.
Yeah, this is always such a fun topic because it's very nuanced. And you have your alpha males, and alpha males are wildly attracted to very strong women because the intelligence is a huge factor of long-term chemistry. But at the same time, there's a mixed up dynamic going on when a woman doesn't know how to receive. It's not about letting a man take control of everything. It's about creating space so he still has an important role in your life, because men are very much wired to want to impress you, to want to do for you, to want to take care of you. And a lot of women are misinterpreting that as him thinking that he doesn't think that you're capable of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right.
And it's not the case. So, and then of course the beta males, I like beta males because beta males actually, you can you can encourage them to step up even more. I like both. Okay, there's all types of males, and you're going to have males can go back and forth because honestly, when it comes down to it, the biggest weakness for men is women.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we're their weakness. We are what can bring them to their knees more than anything else, but we don't understand our romantic power that we possess and our femininity and how powerful that is. We're still kind of discrediting the femininity as not as valuable as masculine energy when it's insanely more valuable. It really is truly women are what make the world go around. And I'm not talking just about with all the work that we're doing these days. I'm talking about our energy. We are what can change the course of everything that is happening with men in our society. It's us.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. So what you were actually about to tell me something about we were talking about alpha men, but you were mentioning something else before that. Successful women. I don't know what it was. I lost it. But what about dating men that earn less than us, than successful women?
Okay. So when I first started this process I started my own Mantourage dating process in 2006, and I came from a place that I had come out of a marriage where I had supported my husband the entire time, and he was very, very flaky in terms of finances and all that and all of the other kind of stuff. This is my ex-husband, by the way. So I decided that I was no longer doing that anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and I dated a man and married a man since that has been completely different than my ex-husband. And it was wonderful for me because I didn't want to financially support a man. Now, as I have been working as a dating consultant, I have seen women come in and have been the breadwinners. And it still can work out very, very well. It depends on how you set it up. And it's very particular to each relationship. So yes, I think a lot of women, if you're very unhappy in your love life and you're a strong, successful woman, you're very unhappy and you have you've dated a man before, had a relationship with a man who, and it didn't work out very well, who was financially not near as successful for you, then I think the first thing you should do is start dating at very close to or at your economic level or higher. That's the first thing you could do because that's how you start to unravel patterns is by changing up things that haven't worked for you in the past.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, I've also seen women come more full circle on that. So they'll come into that and they'll start dating these other kinds of guys, but then they'll realize it wasn't necessarily the guy earning less than them because there's some amazing men out there that I would be with in a heartbeat that, or maybe they're passionate teachers. They're doing these positions in life that are incredible because what's really sexy is a guy that's passionate about his life and what he does. And they're so supportive in other ways. And then these women who are very high powered alpha women, they're killing it. There's no need for the guys to be killing it as well. So now they can focus on spending time together. If they have kids, dividing the workload between that or letting him take more of that. So it's really situation dependent, Margaret. And again, it's about determining first, what hasn't been working out for you. And I suggest, because a lot of times women will date men that at a different economic level than them because of insecurities. They think that those are the only guys that are going to pay attention to them. Mm-hmm. So I would challenge her first to start dating at her level, close to her level, or above her level for a while.
Right. And
start reworking the way she approaches dating first, and then start addressing the things that are going on with her. And then she can start and again use her Mantourage dating experience. She could date different types of guys, to be honest, but use that Mantourage dating experience to discover herself romantically. And then her forever man, if she wants one, will show up. And it'll start to become evident to her and very clear.
And so how do you then manage if you are dating someone that earns less than you and they are, how do you handle when you go out for dinner and, I don't know, if like the holidays or the gifts or birthday gifts and things like that, and this person can clearly not really afford the things that maybe you would be able to give to them, and like there's just a big imbalance there, and what do you say about that? About how does a woman handle when typically she's used to having the man pay, but you know that he can't pay for every single dinner out, or maybe he can't treat you to a day at the spa or a weekend getaway because that's just not within his realm of financial ability to do that, but you still want to do that. The woman is used to that. She does it with her and her girlfriend, but she would like to do it and share that with the guy that she's dating. Do you think that she should start to pay for these things?
If she wants to, it's really just up to her. There's no, other people might tell you differently, but there's no hard and fast rule about this. Because you could have, for instance, my husband and I, now all of our finances are together. So although typically when we go out, even though it's all linked to one account, when we go out, he's the one that physically does the paying because that turns me on and I like that. Essentially, it's both of our money. Mm-hmm. So, but if we're reversing, because I think you're asking specifically about the dating portion of that, is that within the context of a relationship? Does it matter?
I would say dating, because that's a little, when you're in a relationship or you're married to someone, I think this is already a discussion would probably already happen, and then you would discuss finances at that point. But if it's someone you're dating, you kind of still, that's an uncomfortable even topic to bring up, and I probably wouldn't if it were me. I probably would avoid the situation and then treat him maybe more often to dinners or things like that if that were me.
In dating, I don't necessarily suggest you do all of that. Let him pay when he can. It doesn't mean that he has to pay. You can split it sometimes. I'll be honest, when I was doing my Mantourage dating experience, I didn't pay for a single date. It's not like I was dating, all the men I were dating were extremely wealthy. Men, typically when they're very interested in you, tend to pay. Now, on a first date, that's almost always a rule. Okay. Dates after that, and as you date more and more, he might ask you to pay sometimes, but it's okay to let him ask. And then every once in a while, if you want to throw in, hey, would you be cool with I pay for this? Some guys will tell you no. Some guys will tell you, yeah, that would be great. So you can negotiate that as you go along. I wouldn't worry about it, especially when you have a Mantourage. That's a great thing about Mantourage, because let's say you are dating a guy who doesn't have necessarily all of the funds that would afford you all those things. You could be dating another guy who does. And since you're not in an exclusive relationship yet, it all kind of evens itself out.
That's true. I guess that's the perks of having doing Mantourage dating.
Yes, definitely. The other piece of that is, of course, keep treating yourself to those things as well. There are things that my husband and I now, there are things that I still love to do with just the girls. And maybe if you do end up with a guy, it's because you want to. It's not because you have to. It's not because he was the only guy left in this earth and you just have to pick him. But if you end up with a guy who makes significantly less because he lights you up in so many other ways, it's not going to be a big deal that once your money is combined, that you guys, you make plans that maybe you're paying a little bit more. But during the dating portion of it, I wouldn't focus on it or worry about it whatsoever. And he's going to ask you out more according to his ability to pay than not, unless he's a freeloader, which there are some out there. There's There's not tons, so don't worry about it. And the other thing I would say about this, Margaret, is ladies, don't always be the one offering. Don't worry about, you just because he pays for it doesn't mean you owe him sex. And I hate to say that even for smart women, that's still a concern. I've heard some of the smartest women tell me, "Oh, I pay just because then I know, I owe him nothing."
Right.
No, you
Right.
don't owe him regardless.
Exactly.
You're not.
Exactly.
He's not paying for sex.
Right. Yes. Let's see. Okay, we have a few more minutes. I just wanted to know, what are some of the mistakes that women make when they're dating? Like, give us a couple of big ones that maybe women do over and over again that just either maybe sabotage it or just aren't working in the dating field.
Oh, the biggest one for me is the misinterpretation of men. Learning to manterpret. Well, it's not absolutely necessary. Understanding that there's a good chance that your preconceived notions and stereotyping men and trying to categorize them and then using what they say against them. I'm going to tell you, there's a good at least 80% of the time that even the smartest women are wrong about men and their intentions and what they mean.
So give me something that women are always like assuming that men are either thinking or doing that aren't true. Do you know of any?
Yes, absolutely. The first one, of course, we already mentioned a little bit earlier, and that one is that men don't want strong, opinionated, successful women. That they're just looking for unintelligent women who are just yes women, and that is 100% not the case. That's a huge misconception.
Okay.
The second piece, and I get this a lot, and I don't have I'm trying to think of an example right off the top of my head, but it happens a lot in online dating, is he'll say something to her and he actually, it's a compliment, but she takes it as an insult, or he is, he's inquiring about something that he shouldn't be inquiring about. The third one I'm going to say is women interpret him wanting to have sex with her as something that's always negative, and it's somehow belittling. Now, his approach to it might be belittling, but a man wanting to have sex with you is a natural response to your beauty. It's wired into him. Of course, he wants to have sex with you. So Stop. Now, you can be upset if he uses an inappropriate approach, absolutely, but don't be upset with a man just because he wants to have sex with you.
Right. They can't help it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, do you blame him? Have you looked at yourself lately?
Right, exactly. Okay. Yeah. I can see how women really jump to that conclusion pretty quickly. And it is, so when is it that we should, what would be the red flag then if we were true with our assumptions in terms of it being only for that and not to have relationship or eventually to, to have more of a closeness rather than a one night stand?
Well, it depends on how you've set it up. So if you start with a guy and you're dating and you're going out on dates, and he, of course, he's gonna probably kiss you, and he's probably gonna approach you sexually in a way, and you're having fun and having a great time, and you playfully reject him, and he blows up or something, well, that's a big sign right there. Let's say he just disappears. Now, guys have a tendency with something that I call a man pause. Their communication pattern might change with you for a few days. That's okay. Don't use that as a reason to freak out. Now, if he goes away completely, well, then maybe your assumptions were true. But I really want women to stop focusing on the assumptions, because the assumptions we're using those as a way to protect ourselves. And the truth is all we're doing is keeping love out of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Okay. Okay. So any other major mistakes aside from like assuming what men are thinking or want? Is there anything other major mistakes that women make while dating?
Yes. This is the last one I think that we should cover, Margaret, and it's a really big one. So there are women who have their boundaries up way too high, so they're functioning as walls, and there are women who, and these are all successful, smart women, by the way, and then there are women who have no boundaries at all. So any guy can walk right over their boundaries and just have their way with them. And both of these function to keep love out of your life. So if you start finding, appropriate boundaries for yourself, instead of having the walls, instead of disqualifying men all the time, which is what women with walls around them, they're always finding what's wrong with men. They're always focusing on and misinterpreting a lot of the things that he says to them, or they're not dating at all. And then you have the women that because they let not necessarily lots of guys, but they let the guys that do come over these boundaries, they let them do whatever they want and never ask for anything they want because they don't want to be perceived as high maintenance. Just understand that if you're doing either one of those scenarios, it's going to be very difficult to find your forever man if that's what you indeed want, or it's going to be very difficult to have fulfilling and fun relationships or dating experiences.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. Totally. All right. Well, it is coming down to the end of our interview. How can people find you?
Well, thank you, Margaret, for asking that. I have put together something for you ladies and added a couple of free resources for you. You can find me at jennburton.com/sacred.
Okay.
And I have some very fun resources that I think that your ladies will enjoy, that they can use to start changing the dynamic in their dating life and actually make it something that they're excited about and look forward to.
And Jenn is with 2 N's?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
Jenn Burton.
Yes, JennBurton.com/sacred.
Oh, perfect. And that'll be in the show notes. And you obviously also do some coaching and all of that, and that's just on your website as well if they were interested?
Absolutely. I'll link to that on the JennBurton.com/sacred as well if they're interested in learning more.
Perfect. You're also on Instagram.
Yes, I am. I am at Jenn B, Romantic Fairy Godmomma. Hold on. I apologize, Margaret. I should have known that one off the top of my head.
That's okay. I could look it up too if you. I'll just have everything in the show notes.
Yes, I'm also really cool with just sending everybody to the one page, and I'll link everything on there as well.
Okay. Great. And I end every interview with just 3 quick questions. Okay. So the first one is, what is one of your biggest indulgences, like something that you don't mind spending a lot of money on?
Personal development.
Okay. Is there a book that you're reading now that you are absolutely loving?
Not currently.
Okay. And what do you wear to bed?
Nothing.
I love it, because I'd say 90% of my guests wear nothing. All right. Beautiful. Well, Jenn, thank you so much. This has been awesome interview. I love the idea of Mantourage dating. I think more women need to do it. I think we need to stop focusing on just one guy when we first start dating them. And yeah, I think this is so great with the boundaries, the sexual boundaries, and all of it. Thank you so much for being here, and have a beautiful week.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you all so loved and learned so much during this interview with Jenn. It was really amazing. I love the idea of Mantourage. it is definitely something that I definitely, completely 100% will be doing and have dabbled in it in the past. But Jenn just she just gives you a little more insight into how to do it, which I think is really cool. So for more information on Jenn and for all the show notes, as well as getting her free PDF that she's created for us, head on over to jennburton.com/sacred. But that will be in the show notes, where you can find it at margaretromero.com/episode 55. Hope you are all doing so beautifully this week. And if you haven't had a chance to check me out on Instagram, head on over there. I am going to be having photos and move-in stuff into my New York City little sanctuary that I will be moving into very shortly. Probably by the time this comes out, I will have moved the majority of my stuff in. So pretty excited about that. The Instagram is at Margaret Romero. So have the most beautiful week. Thank you so much for listening. I so appreciate you. Much love, big blessings, and big kiss. Bye for now.